song during the service and the one in the pre-service. He did that for me. These days, if you didn't hear it, it was wonderful. Some of you were just coming in, but we used to have Friday night music back in the olden days. And that was a song that he and Sherry performed a few times. I loved it so much. Just, it's so good, and so was everything else today. When I heard that they were going to sing this particular song this morning, I believe, Sherry told me earlier in the week, and I actually even chose a different topic. I changed the topic I was going to speak about today because of it. And the reason is this song is so powerful. These lyrics are so powerful. I'm going to repeat them to you. These lyrics were written in the early 50s, and it was a time that you wouldn't have really expected that a song without the, we know that they're talking about God, but they don't mention the name of God. All these miracles that are mentioned, and when you find out that it was written in the early 50s, you can hardly believe it. It was widely popular. Here are the words. I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. Now, symbolically, we know what that's talking about, and that means that there may be some things going on in the world that you may not regard as positive. But we know that flowers are coming, always. We may feel that a rain is going to dampen our day. We may even feel that COVID has dampened our lives beyond repair right now. We're talking about that too, and it's not so. Perhaps all we're seeing is a time of reset so that we can listen and we can know what truly is important to us. Maybe that's what we're finding out right now. But we do know we're learning something, don't we? I told a story last Sunday about a man that went for a telegraph job. And when he went in, there were several others in the lobby waiting. And so he put his name on the list, came in, quietly sat down, and paid attention to his own inner voice. He sat quietly and he listened. And what he heard in the background was surprising, because as everyone else in the room was chattering on and on with their worries, their concerns, and their nervousness, he was listening. He was listening to a voice, and he was listening actually to the code. And in the background, a code was saying, "Go in for your interview now. Go in for your interview now." And because he was in a place where he was listening, he heard, and he went in for the interview. And I guess what I'm sharing with you today is what I believe. And I believe that we have been provided with this period of time where we will learn to appreciate and listen. And so all the griping and the complaining and everything else going on, if that's you, I think I'd question that. whenever it comes up. Question that. I mentioned earlier that New Thought spirituality is, and it's New Thought Christianity is what it is, but it's all spirit. And if we can learn to live without labels, won't it be a wonderful world? If we could just have a world without labels, because labels do what? They separate, don't they? They separate us into us and them. That's what labels do for you. But I mentioned late into the 1800s, Myrtle Fillmore and many others, she needed healing. She had tuberculosis, and she had found no other way, and she was likely to die. And she went to a meeting where a man was talking about keeping your thoughts positive. This was totally new. And what he was saying was, his name was E.B. Weeks, and what he was saying was, if you keep your thoughts positive, good things will come your way. And not only that, you will have a totally different view of life. And then all sorts of other good things start coming your way because people like you a lot more. Did you know that? If you're not negative and complaining all the time, did you know people will like you a lot more? Did anybody discover that yet? All sorts of good things start coming your way. You don't even have to think about it being metaphysical or anything else, or magic or miracles. You can think of it in terms of, wow, I'm a more positive person. People want to be with me. So what she found, not only did she find healing, but she and her husband, who was a skeptic, and he thought only with his brain, and he had no idea that feelings mattered. And he finally allowed his thoughts to touch his heart. And he got the message too. And they, with their teachings, made a huge difference in the world. And they continue to today. So I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. Do you? I hope you do. I believe that somewhere in the darkest night, a candle glows. Think of your darkest night that you've had in your lifetime. And I know there have been some pretty dark ones. We know that. Maybe even a time when you were so sad, so lost, so worried or afraid, you didn't know how you'd take your next breath, much less than an hour from now. But you know what? There was a candle in the darkness, wasn't there? And it led you onward and out of there. And for everyone that goes astray, someone will come to point the way. And that may be you. You may find your own internal wisdom. It may be words that you hear from someone else. We never know. I remember many, many years ago, I had been sick. I can't remember what I had, and maybe it was the flu, I don't know. I was laying on the sofa in the living room, and Dan had the PBS channel on, and Wayne Dyer was on there. And I was laying there in sort of a odd, feverish little state there, and I didn't feel well, but I had my head on the pillow, and I heard this voice. And I thought, this voice is speaking to me from the heavens somewhere, the ethers. It was such a beautiful voice. And of course, what Wayne Dyer taught was always positive, and that you could make a difference with your life just by changing your thoughts. He taught that. Well, I laid there that day. It was the oddest experience. It was actually like an out-of-body experience. And I listened to that voice telling me things that were just miraculous. I can think of it now, and it still brings chills to my body. Do you have any of those experiences that have happened to you? And it was like that for me that day. I knew that he was just speaking the words of the Most High. They just happened to be coming through his body, was what it was. He had opened himself up as a willing channel to a higher voice. So that particular day, I know I had several things in my mind, and I was trying to make a decision about some things. And the miracle of it was I would never have been laying there on that couch if I hadn't been sick. And so I had to see that as a miracle too. Like, okay, I heard that. I heard you, Wayne. I heard. And I got a message that I needed to hear that day. And what it told me was that I had a ministry right here in Gulfport. And indeed, that was true. So I believe that someone will come to show the way. I believe above the storm, the smallest prayer will still be heard. Do you believe that? Yeah. I believe. It may be the softest voice. They're all heard. And when we say our prayers from our hearts, with love and positive energy, they are indeed heard. We may not get an answer tomorrow. It may not be this month. It may not be this year, but the answer will come. Oh, and this is a line I just love. I don't know if it could have been said any better, so listen up, okay? Okay. I believe that someone in the great somewhere hears every word. I don't know who that someone is for you. A voice, an energy. It hears you. It knows your name. It knows you're here. It knows your needs. That great energy hears every single word that you utter. So we sang earlier about miracles. I'm going to mention a few right now. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, boy, there's a miracle, isn't it, Sarah? Wow. How about when you touch a leaf? Do you see that as a miracle? There's a universe in a leaf, you know. Turn one over sometime and look at it. And if you believe there's not a great intelligence somewhere that created that leaf and that tree, then I want to know what you do believe in. Truly, there's a miracle right there. How about the sky? That's pretty miraculous too, isn't it? So here's an entire theology in a song right here. When I look at all these different things and I ponder them, I know why I believe. Right there. It's not the flat tires. It's not the politicians arguing. It's not any of that. It's the miracles that are here every single day. Will we notice them? I like this quote from Norman Vincent Peale. He's another one that believed in miracles and the power of positive thinking. You know, he, as he spoke out for positive thinking, he was in a traditional Christian denomination, and he took a lot of abuse. Did you know that? For his beliefs in positive thinking. But anyway, he says this: a positive thinker does not refuse to recognize the negative. He refuses to dwell on it. Okay? We know it's there, but we don't dwell on it. Positive thinking is a form of thought that habitually looks for the best results from the worst conditions. So keep your thoughts positive, always. Ernest Holmes, another New Thought teacher, said, the barriers between you and your greater good are not barriers in themselves. They're things of thought. Jesus summed up the whole proposition when he said, it is done to you as you believe. Makes me want to believe in something good. How about you? And we know many others. It's not just Jesus that said that. I know that Beth has taught the Yogananda's teachings. And Paramahansa Yogananda, wow, what a mouthful. He taught the yoga of Jesus. He was from India, but he saw so much great teachings in Jesus' teachings that he wanted people to understand it. And so he went on and explained them further in his own language. But he uses that one verse a lot. It is done to you as you believe. And he also taught that we should always, always, always be grateful for what we already have. So if you're not grateful for what you already have and all you feel like doing is grousing, don't look for much else good to come your way, huh? The universe is saying, well, if they don't appreciate that, I don't guess we need to give them anything else. It works that way. We know that those of us that have been coming to Unity for a while, that Charles Fillmore and his wife Myrtle had many, many books and teachings, and he more than she, but hers were mainly regarding healing. But their granddaughter Connie took all of these teachings and boiled them down to 5 principles. One is, there's a powerful good in the universe that wants our best. Each of us is connected to the source of that powerful good. And I will just say, since I've already given the illustration of the man listening to the code in the background, we have to be willing to open up and listen and find our own way of hearing the divine, not the voice of ego. That gets in the way. And the more you sit around worrying about that, the more you are not going to be connected to your good. Guaranteed. Sitting around grousing about politics, whatever else it is, you're not going to be connected to your good, okay? We all have those thoughts, of course. Of course we do. We live in the world, and we have our own opinions about those things. Just don't let it take your joy. So each of us is connected to that source of powerful good. In this, the lyrics earlier, that someone in the great somewhere, that powerful good, okay? By keeping our thoughts positive, we attract more good into our lives. Time spent in prayer and meditation enhances our ability to connect with that powerful good. And one of the most important ones, of course, is that we must walk the talk. It's not enough to just know these things. We must actually live it. We must live it. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have our down times, we don't have our sad times. We may even have an angry time when someone cuts us off somewhere or whatever. But what happens is, and maybe here's a measurement of your the advancement of your spirituality, okay? Use this as a measurement. How long does it take me to get from that place of terrible upset or anger, maybe even rage? I hope not. I hope no one in this room ever has any anger to that point. I'm hopeful. But we do get angry with someone if they stepped on our toe on purpose. You know, it hurts. Why did you do that? I don't think I like you anymore. You know, of course, we have feelings. But the sooner you can go from upset to being balanced again will be a measurement of how far you have advanced spiritually. And it's free. You have a demonstration of it every day. You can use it for free. So the fastest you can come from getting upset to coming back to a place of balance, it shows how spiritually advanced you are. And the writer of these words expressed a belief that no matter how seemingly lost we might feel, there's that great someone and the great somewhere there that we can connect to find our good. And one of the things I know that some of us have observed, and that is with those 5 unity principles, is that you don't see the word gratitude spelled out there, but I guarantee you they are within every single line. they were intended. There's a powerful good, and we're grateful for it. We're grateful for our connection. We're grateful that we can keep our thoughts positive. We're grateful for the time that we can meditate and go within in prayer. And we're grateful that we can walk our talk. Gratitude is huge, huge, huge. So a spiritual teacher offered this advice. He said, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen here? If you find yourself getting into a difficult situation, what's the worst thing that can happen here? He said that back in 2007 and 2008, he and his wife were near bankruptcy. They did not know what in the world they were going to do. Whatever they did, he was trying to make a business go, and she was working as hard as she could, and they were taking care of their children, but it looked like no matter what they did, they were going to lose their home. And so he said that in the midst of this, he finally went in, he spent some time alone, and in his thoughts, for the first time ever, the thought came to him, or the idea, why is the home that important to you? Why don't you sell it? It's not the only home. And he said it was just like a miracle that here they'd been doing everything in the world, maybe even to their detriment, the detriment of their family, to keep that house. They enjoyed the neighborhood. They enjoyed the neighbors, the community. But for the first time, he allowed this thought to come in. Well, you know what? This is a house. We make a home wherever we go. Now, wouldn't I like to feel a bit empowered here and sell this house of my own free will and buy something else that we can afford? He said it was just a radical change, that they'd been thinking this for so long, didn't seem to be able to get out of that thought. Finally realized they're not helping the children, they're not helping anybody with what they were doing, but they were stuck in that thought process and weren't going to move beyond it. And he said that once they made that decision, they decided to put the house on the market. They sold it. They sold it for a good amount of money. They no longer had that huge house payment, and they could actually buy something they could pay for. How much common sense does that make? You don't even have to have a highly accelerated spiritual intelligence there, do you? That's just a little bit of common sense going there. But sometimes he used that to illustrate he's a coach. And he said he has used that several times when he has people that come in that he's coaching, and they are so entrenched in this one thing they've got to do. But he'll use it as an illustration. Would you consider changing your mind about that? And just like that, it's like a miracle happened. There's a shift, just a subtle shift at first. I'm willing to change my mind. I'm willing. So I began talking about the song, As You Believe. I believe I believe there's a great energy, this great one somewhere, this great unknown, that somehow if I open my heart, my mind, and allow it to come in, it will be mine. And miracles will be had everywhere. So I guess the thing I'd like to leave with you is that we do live miracles every day, don't we? The leaves, the raindrops, the medications, right, Roger? The medications. Thank you, God. That man is here with us today. Another miracle. I'm just looking around the room at all these miracles. And I'm grateful. I hope you are too. Thank you for your time.